Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. In today's Brother ScanNCut tips and tricks tutorial, you are going to learn how to use ScanNCut data. ScanNCut data allows you to take a pattern of a stencil in this case, or it could be a cutout shape. It could even be the outline of a stamped image. It allows you to take that and save it to your machine or to your Canvas workspace and then do lots of things to it. Those things that I'm going to be teaching you to do to it are to copy it to just as it is, so we can make embellishments such as these floral leaf embellishments, or I should say sort of leaf flourishes, and these little trees. And it also allows you to do other things such as flipping it or mirroring it so that you get the opposite, so that the branch would be on the opposite side. ScanNCut data allows you to resize these trees. So if you wanted a different size tree, for example, I'll be showing you how to do that. And it allows you, in the case of the SDX 125, to create layers as well. So ScanNCut data differs from direct cut in that you're actually saving the data and being able to manipulate it. So let's get started. Now you can follow along with whatever, wherever part of the world you're in, with whichever model of ScanNCut you have. But right now I'm using my brand new paper pumpkin kit that just came in the mail, and it's the April paper pumpkin kit by Stampin' Up. It's called My Wonderful Family. So whenever I open up a paper pumpkin kit, I always want more. And in this case, I wanted more of these. So let me show you kind of how I came up with this idea. I opened it up and I said, there were only 2 sheets of these little leaf embellishments. And I said, oh, I have to have more. Okay. And you never know when you get, like, if the refill kits are going to be available to us or if they're going to sell out in one day. And I just wanted more. So I'm going to pull this out to just show you how cool this is. And it's in the color called Shaded Spruce. Okay, so I took this out and I saved the back part. So whenever I get my kit, I save the back part. So you could have whatever, again, just use whatever stencil you have that you want to do this with, or whatever pattern paper, or follow along with any shapes you have. Because I want you to follow along to really learn how to do what I'm showing you. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. There's this embossing on these, and I just thought these are great, and I can do some embossing on some copies of them that I'm going to make. And I just wanted more because each one of these is going to be helpful or useful for a card element. Okay. Then I got to so let's just put that on a dark background so you can see it better. All right, so I wanted more of the Shaded Spruce. Then these trees, early espresso trees, they already have stripes in them, and I have just, early espresso cardstock. I wanted more. So I was popping out the trees. I saved my stencil. Look how great these are. And how great would these be for winter trees as well? For making winter scenes if we wanted to make these in some shimmery or glittery white paper. But for now, I just wanted some trees to go with the family tree theme. Okay, so what I did just to get you to this point, so I popped out my stencils. There were only 2 sheets of each in my paper pumpkin kit because, these are the sample cards. Of course, I always show you samples of my projects at the end of my tutorials. So you'll see what I did with these things that I cut out. So I took them out and I said, well, I just turned them over and I'm using this side for the scanning because in my experience with ScanNCut data, the solid colors work better. And so that's the reason I'm using the white side, like solid white or solid black. Like I would put white on a black piece of cardstock or black on a white piece of cardstock, etc. And in the case of this one, I wanted to make sure I didn't take the outline. See how there's a brown, this early espresso on the tree. On this one, I wanted to make sure that I just had this fine tree to scan in. So just this fine tree with the branches. So I needed to turn it over. I needed to turn the stencil over. So here's where I'm at. So I put it on a mat. I put these stencils, I turned them upside down, popped them out, turned them upside down, not glued them, just used rolling adhesive onto this piece of cardstock, black cardstock. So now I have really good contrast. I have white on black. Okay, so that's really good contrast. Always keep that in mind. Then what I did is I scanned them in, and of course what happened the first time is this started getting caught in my machine. These I didn't glue them down, because if I glued them down, then glue would have oozed in and I would have had another problem. So I was like, So then I said, let me get a piece of acetate. So you can use your matte cover if you want, but that's not a really good thing to use because it's kind of too big and it's gonna be hard to tape down. So I used a piece, I talked about this cheap acetate before. The kind that you get for like the sheet protectors. not sheet protectors. Don't use a sheet protector. What's the word? The overhead transparency film. Let me just get a new piece of that because I've already started messing with that one. Okay, so I was using these really cheap acetate pieces, and I just want to put it there. And the reason I like this size is because it's 8.5 by 11, and you can use like the shrinky dink material that I showed you how to use recently. But the 8.5 by 11 was good because you put the acetate down and it'll keep this from getting caught up in your machine. Now, because I like to build your skills, we're going to just do one thing at a time. We're going to do the leaves first. We'll do the trees next. So I'm using the SDX, so I can only load them at one direction. And so what I'm doing is taping that piece of acetate down, but don't tape over the registration marks themselves, okay? Because this has to be scanned in. Okay, I'm going to load this mat, and when I load my mat, I always like to keep my hand on it, but don't get your hands caught up in the roller. So let me just turn on the machine, which it's on already. And you get your stylus if you need to, or I'm just using my spatula, and we're going to go. You're going to see my load mat button in a minute, but I need to change my camera angle, so I'm just doing the loading mat first. And I just restuck my mat. So again, I would not have attempted this. If you want to learn how to do that, watch my maintenance video. I would not have attempted this entire tutorial unless my mats were sticky. I'm just trying to make sure it goes in. Sometimes the rollers. Come on. Of course, when I'm making a tutorial, you're not going to behave, right? But that's okay. We have to. We'll see if it even works right. But we have to do what we can. I'm keeping it real. My mat doesn't always load correctly. All right, so then now I can show you how I did that. So I'm doing every step. I'll compare the different things. So this is my load mat button. This one here, this little load mat button. Okay, so now turn on your machine. You have pattern and scan. We are going to select scan. Okay, we want scan to cut data. What I usually use, just so you know, is direct cut. That's what I usually use. Most of my tutorials are about cutting stamped images. That's what I mostly do with my scan and cut. Okay, I cut stamped images. So I usually use this one. I don't need to store any of the information. I don't need to do anything to it. I just cut it out. And I often layer it. Okay, that's direct cut, but we're not doing that now. This tutorial is about scan to cut data. So you're probably wondering, when to use this. The reason you'd want to use this is whenever you want to save what you're scanning and use it over again. That's when you're going to use scan to cut data. It's whenever you want to do something to your scan, like such as editing these leaves or making them larger or smaller. Okay, we want to use black and white recognition mode because there's good contrast. We put the white onto the black background. I want to choose 12 by 6 because that's the scan area instead of 12 by 12 because I only have the image in the top half, so I want to use 12 by 6 in the recognition area. I'm still looking for something else. My other little, here we go. I'm going to use my stylus now. I found it. I know it's always right here. You can't go far. One of my viewers was talking about hiding it behind the little screen, but I also have storage in the bottom of my machine. All right, so anyway, back to this. So we're going to hit start, and what we're going to do is we're going to scan in this top area. And I always teach other things in these tutorials, such as troubleshooting tips. Sometimes when you scan in something where there's a square on top of a piece of cardstock, it recognizes only like sort of this outside square. So we need to use, see, it sometimes just recognizes that big square. So what we need to use is the second option. The first option in scan to cut data is to just select the outside. Well, what that would do is just get me a big old, not square, it's a rectangle. It would give me just a rectangle. So that's not good. I don't want that option. The second option is inside and outside. And I've taught you how to do inside and outside of stamped images before. So now we're doing the inside and outside of the stencil. We will get rid of the outside later, but we do need the inside. We need these leaves, so we want the second option. And that third option was just, this option here was just about scanning every line on the screen, and you don't want that option. That's a big hot mess. The only two options I use are the first and the second. Now we want to do a couple more things. we want to see how there's all this dirt on my mat. Even though I just cleaned my mat, there's lots of dirt and dust and grime. I'm going to go in. First, I'm going to make the selection of just the area I want with these leaves in it. And then I want to also ignore object size. So ignoring object size so that some of those smaller bits disappear. Don't go too big. Don't ignore objects that are too big, because if you get too big, you're going to be ignoring the very leaves you're trying to scan. 2 inches is good because these leaves are bigger than that. So now let's say okay. And now, so we're going to now scan to cut data. Now it's asking us, where do you want to scan? Where do you want to store the data? You can store it in Canvas Workspace because your wireless is set up like I've taught you how to do, crafty friends. You can store it up in Canvas Workspace. You can store it here on your thumb drive. That's the USB stick. But that's just another whole step. So let's not do all that. Let's just, I mean, it's not a step, it's just setup. You right now from home with any stencil you have without any wireless setup can just do this. Save it to your machine. This is the one I use 99% of the time. My machine does get full and I have to keep making room for the files, but you know, it's saying that it's number 114 right now. I deleted a few files before this tutorial. All right, so very important to note is that it's in the computer. So now I'm just going to hit home. It's important to note that we just used scan to cut data. So it's in there. Is it okay to delete all patterns? Absolutely. Oh no, we deleted all patterns. No, we didn't. We saved it before into scan to cut data. So you come along the next day, okay, it's the next day, the machine has gone to sleep, okay? We've woken up the machine and we get back to the screen. It could be the next day, it could be a year later, it could be right now, like I'm gonna do this right now. We are gonna go to retrieve data. So you turn on your machine, you see everything, you're gonna go to retrieve data. And where do we retrieve it from? The 4 places are the machine, Canvas Workspace, the thumb drive, the USB stick, or the USB directly connected to your computer. We're going to use the first option. Why? Because we just saved it there. And now it's not right there. It's not on page 1. It's going to be on the last page. So jump to the last page, and this will work with any model of ScanNCut you have, this part so far. There are our leaves, and we're going to select them. Now, you're like, oh no, I have a couple mess ups. That's okay, because we really only needed one good one. So we don't want to trash this whole file. Never hit the trash can here. You want to say, okay, you want to do some editing, but not to the whole file. You want to get into this point where it says edit now in this screen here, because now we can edit out. I can already tell we want to edit out 2 things, okay? We want to edit out the box that got scanned. That's the big rectangle. And we want to edit out the leaves in the middle because they didn't get scanned all the way, which is understandable. Not all parts of your mat are going to scan equally as well. Okay, it doesn't matter how many times you clean your scanning plate, like I just taught you in my last video. It doesn't matter how many times you clean your mat, and it really just doesn't matter. There's going to be parts of your mat that just don't scan as well as other parts of your mat. Maybe there's a little thing stuck in there. Who knows? And it doesn't matter. Do not worry yourself about silly things. All right, we have bigger fish to fry. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to edit, and we're going to get rid of that one because it's not a good one. So we're going to hit trash. And now we got to be careful. You want to try to get that rectangle, but when you hit it, you're like, oh, there's my leaf, there's my leaf, there's the rectangle, okay? An easier way to get to that rectangle would have been to toggle. This is the toggling the selection. There's 3 objects on the screen right now. There's that rectangle we need to get rid of behind it. And there's that, the rectangle's back there. And there's those 2 leaves. We don't want to delete those because those are good. We just want to delete the background. So we're going to toggle and we're going to get that square and we're going to delete it. And we're going to say, okay. Now, I'm going to this is just to teach you one thing. We're going to go over here. We're going to move these around. I'm going to teach you one thing right now. Okay? And the one thing I'm going to teach you right now is just the duplication. Okay? Because I just want you to get in your head why we needed scan to cut data. We couldn't have done this. We couldn't have done this at all. In direct cut, we wouldn't have been able to move these around the screen at all. We would not have been able to move these leaves. Furthermore, the big power of scan to cut data is the duplication. And then I'm going to show you other editing features in just a few minutes. So let's go to Object Edit. We're going to hit the plus. Just select either leaf. It doesn't matter. We're going to hit the plus. And we're going to make more of those. You can make as many as you want, but we don't really need that many. I'm just going to make one more just to show you. Okay? Oops, I didn't make more. I didn't make 2, sorry. There we go, 2. Okay, let's make 1 more just to show you, okay? Let's make, you can make way more than that. And you can flip them, and I'll talk about other things in just a minute. But there we have 4 leaves, okay? So that's the power of using ScanNCut data. So let's do this. Because I want you to understand one thing at a time, so I'm gonna just go ahead. Now we can unload the mat, and we can actually save this. So we've made, maybe, you know, what I'm doing, by the way, crafty friends, is I'm taking a new mat, and I'm just putting a piece of shaded spruce on it, just while I'm talking to you. So you can actually unload the mat here, and you can say, okay, and you can actually save this so that now you have 4 leaves saved, or you could have had a whole page of leaves saved. And that's what's really nice. So I'm going to say okay, and I'm actually going to save this. It's asking, where do you want to save it? To my machine. And do we want to overwrite the file? Yes. So now that messed up file with the extra rectangle around it, it's gone. We have 4 good leaves. And I'm going to go ahead. So it's already still on the screen too, but it's also in the machine. Okay, so what I've done is I've loaded a piece of shaded spruce. And I'm just going to say okay. And I'm going to select cut. And it's going to take 2 minutes. And we're going to cut out the shaded spruce. See you in 2 minutes. We're finished cutting. We say okay. I'm going to go ahead and unload the mat. And then I'm going to show you where we're at. And then we'll go over the next steps that you're going to learn. So I hope you will agree, crafty friends, that ScanNCut data is pretty darn awesome once you see this. I mean, how can you not love the fact that your paper pumpkin kit, or whatever you started with, came with just a couple stencils, and you had, you know, just a few leaves, and now you have multiple copies of those leaves, okay? So who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love extra embellishments? Look how clear they are, look how well they came out. Let's pull those off, and I want to explain a couple more things before we move on. I'll just pull one off, and the rest while I'm talking. So okay, here's what we just cut out, and then here's what we started with. So here's what we started with. This one is textured. I'll talk about adding texture as well, not with the ScanNCut itself, but there's other ways. I mean, ScanNCut does have an embossing toolkit, which I've talked about before, but in this case, let's just put this on a white piece of background. Okay, so in this case, here is the one we started out with. Now I want to put the one that we just scanned and cut next to this one. So now when you have a paper pumpkin kit, they're not using like the actual, they're using shaded spruce color, but they're not actually using shaded spruce cardstock. And the way you can tell is because Stampin' Up! Cardstock is dyed all the way through. This is from the stencil. It's white on the background, but Stampin' Up! Cardstock is dyed all the way through. So let me go back to this. I just want to explain what I did here. So when I scanned this stencil in, it was upside down. Okay, so here's what I scanned in. There's the stencil, and here's how my leaves came out. So they're the opposite. Why was I not worried about that? Why did I not use the mirror technique? The reason I didn't need to flip these or use mirror is because, like I said, our cardstock's dyed all the way through. So we just flip it over, and we have the exact one that we started with. Look how great that is. Look how great these embellishments are. Like, they came out just like the stencil. I mean, they're smooth edges. They're beautiful. Okay, and we didn't even need to do anything else to them. I didn't need to do anything because they're already the perfect size for cards. So now I pulled this piece of cardstock off. We're going to work with the tree next, and then we'll do some more editing and manipulation. But you always have to sort of remove. So I did a lot of these earlier, and maybe I fit, let's see. I'm just going to kind of show you the piece of cards. Just while I'm pulling them off, you can see my cardstock from earlier. I cut out all these leaves on the bottom here, and then we just cut out the 4 on the top. And I use Shaded Spruce 12x12 cardstock by Stampin' Up! I'll link to it in the description. You can use the 8.5x11 Shaded Spruce cardstock as well. I just like to work with 12x12 cardstock because I'm a ScanNCut enthusiast, and that's how big my mat is. And that's what I tend to work with when I buy the cardstock in the different color packets. That one happened to come in a packet called Regals, the Regals collection, because Shaded Spruce is one of the Regals. All right, I'm flipping this over, and I'm doing the tree next. So we're putting the tree up the top. Okay, what I'm doing is putting that piece of acetate from earlier, because if I don't, because really you don't need acetate. You don't need a scanning mat either. I get asked this all the time. You don't need to waste your money on a scanning mat. Okay, you just need a regular cutting mat. But you do need to sometimes use this little, like the acetate trick, to put something over the top so it doesn't get caught up in your machine. So I'm just putting this down. And you could use the dust cover on your mat, but it might have some dust in it. And I think you'll just get a better result using a nice, clean, new piece of acetate. All right, so there's my arrow. And I have to make sure that when I load my mat, my arrow is facing that way. And sometimes I give it a little push. See how long it takes for my rollers just to react? I don't know what's going on. But I don't question, I just work with things the best I can. And sometimes it catches and sometimes it doesn't. And I do not worry about it because once I do get my mat loaded, I usually leave it loaded for a while. That may or may not have gone in crooked, we'll see. We'll see if it likes that. It didn't say anything about it. All right, so you'll recall we already have this saved. Remember, we already have this saved. This set of leaves. All right, sorry for the squeaking. I did have little things on the bottom of my machine, but I took them off. I had little things to help it slide. All right, let's just say okay. Actually, no, we're just gonna go home. We don't need these leaves anymore. All right, we're gonna start back at the beginning, and this is a review, and then new skills. I'm adding new skills to this. I hope you're already excited with the skills you already just learned already in this tutorial, but now it's gonna be like over the top cool when you see what you can do with ScanNCut data, and the SDX machine as well. So my camera's shaking because I'm excited. I already hit the camera like yay, excited. Okay, so scan. We're gonna go to scan. ScanNCut data and 12:6 recognition mode, black and white. Always use black and white recognition mode because most of the time that's all you ever need. Even if you have a colored image, as long as there's good contrast, use black and white recognition mode. So I'm doing this first part a little fast because we did this already earlier. And this part is a review. We're scanning in the top of the mat. We just want the 3 trees this time. Okay, again, you could select the outside, but then you'll end up with a big rectangle. No, we don't want that right now, but sometimes you do want that. In this case, we want the inside and outside lines, but you don't want the last option, which is just all the regular thin lines because you'll end up with a big hot mess. Now, we want that. We want to ignore object size. The trees are pretty big. Let's just ignore things up to about 2 inches. That'll get rid of those unwanted bits in the back, and so will selecting the area that you want to scan. So let's now say preview. See what we have, and okay, you can't really tell until we save it. So let's go ahead and save it to our machine. We talked about where you can save things and all that good stuff. All right, we have file number 115. We go home, we delete everything. The next day you come over, you turn on your machine. I put my hand there, that means you turned it off, it went to sleep, you turned it on. You're ready to work, it's the next day or a year later, and you go to retrieve data and you go to find the data that you scanned, and we go to the last page. You could go 1 page at a time, or you could jump to the last page, and there are our trees. We click on the file with the trees. I think they all seem to scan in well, but we do want to get rid of that rectangle in the back. Don't hit any trash now, because if you hit the trash now, that means you're trashing the entire file 115. Hit OK, and only now you can get into the editing mode where you can get rid of that rectangle. Now you can go into edit. Now there's a tree that's good. Go to select. There's the rectangle. See? There's another tree that's good. There's another tree that's good. Okay, there's the rectangle. See that red line? Now we can trash that. So at this point, before you do anything else, I like to save early and often. So now we're saving just the tree file. So we have 3 good trees. We're overwriting the file. Now let's learn some new really cool things. This is something that you can do on your SDX. The first thing you can do is I'm going to take a tree. Here's a tree. Move it off to the side, and I'm going to go to edit. And we can go to object edit, and we can make an extra layer. Now you could do this other ways, but if with direct cut, I like that in ScanNCut data, you have this little offset option built right into ScanNCut data. So we're going to go here. We're going to click on that, and we are going to make a bigger tree that's 0.04 inches wider than the original tree. Okay, so let's say okay. Now it just put them on top of each other, and that's going to be kind of confusing. And if you don't know that they're on top of each other, you're going to end up with this tiny little outline. But you want this to be separately cut. So click over here and see how one is thicker than the other. Let me go in and zoom in so you can see that. There is one, and then there's one with the outline distance. How cool is that? Right inside ScanNCut data. Okay, so let's leave those. Okay, that's one cool thing you can do. And now let's say okay. Now let's make more room by taking this second tree and flipping it upside down. Let's go to Object Edit and let's go to Rotate. Okay, we're going to rotate. 90 degrees. Nope, that's only on its side. 90 more degrees. Now we flipped it 180. You can fit much more on your mat when you do that. Okay, so now we have a set of trees. They're going to layer nicely on top of each other. Now let's do some things to these trees. We now need to talk about mirroring. The reason we need to talk about mirroring is because I'm about to show you how to use foil. And because I always teach you based on the mistakes that I've just made and things I didn't think about until it happened to me. So if you were to just cut out these trees in the color called Early Espresso, which I did earlier, here's Early Espresso, it's a brown color. It is Stampin' Up! Cardstock, it's dyed all the way through, and it doesn't really matter because you can flip the trees over later and they will look like the original tree. But in this case, I want to use copper foil. We're going to be cutting these out in copper foil. Okay, there's a piece of copper foil, but it's very shiny, so I hope you didn't get blinded by the copper foil. But look, on the back of copper foil, it is white. So the way you cut it is the way that it has to look when it's facing up. So I'm going to show you now how to mirror an image. Okay, let's do that. Let's mirror. We're going to take this, let's go back. We're going to take that tree. Well, let's take this tree here. Let's put that tree down there for a second. Let's use this tree because this tree, I have to show you the trees that came in the kit and then I can show you what I'm talking about because it really makes sense visually. Here's the tree that came in the kit. The tree that came in the kit, see there's the white background of it. The two branches are on the right. Not that this really matters, but it may matter with a certain stencil you're using. It doesn't matter obviously for a tree because the tree looks good on both sides. But it does matter that I want to show you how to do this because it's a good technique. So this is the mirror tool right here. When I take this tree with there's two branches on the left side of the tree and only one on the right, and I hit mirror. Now look, it gets two branches on the right and only one on the left, making it the way that it came with the stencil. So now when I cut it out in foil, it'll cut the right way. Okay, so now you know how to use the offset distance to make it a larger object, that's this one, and you know how to mirror. Last time I showed you how to duplicate. But the best part of all is resizing. So let me show you how to do that. So here we're gonna go, we'll put this tree up here for a second. So we know how to. This one's the same tree as this, bigger, this one's mirrored, and we're gonna resize this one. And then you pretty much know the trifecta of great things to do with ScanNCut data. Here, go into here, this button here, and you're gonna resize it. So what's better than one 4.07 inch tree? What's better than that? How about a 9-inch high tree? That would be way better than a 4-inch tree. Why? Because 9 inches, and you could even make it bigger than that, but 9 inches I thought would be good for a scrapbook page. My cousin Bonnie is our family historian, and I'm sending her both my 9-inch trees. The one I made is a sample going one direction with the branches one way, and now I'm gonna, let's see if I flipped it. Here, I made a 9-inch tree earlier, let's see. I want to give her one that's the opposite in case I didn't flip this. The two branches are on the left. Oh boy, I need to flip this here. I need to rotate this so I can see it better. Let's see, two branches on the left, same. So what I need to do is mirror that. I'm going to mirror it. Yeah, so that way I'm going to give her two trees that are the opposite of each other. Okay, I'm going back to flipping it around because when I flip it around, no, let's see. So anyway, I made a 9-inch tree. You know, I'm going to let I'm going to let the computer, figure out the best way to arrange these. I could flip these all day and sit there and drag them all over the place. But if I let the computer, meaning if I let the ScanNCut, let's say okay. By the way, just to review before I get out of the screen, you now know how to resize, duplicate, rotate, and mirror. Okay, but we just learned 3 of these just now. We learned this one earlier, we duplicated earlier, and just now you learned mirror, resize, and rotate. All right, so let's say okay. Now, I want to do this. I'm ready to cut this, but I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to put another mat in with some copper. But I want to use this button here. This button here is called the auto layout feature right here. So I'm going to go ahead and save it because I like to save my big tree, my small trees. I think it's all good. Save your work a lot. Oops. I wanted to save it overwrite. Huh. It's telling me there's not enough data. I'll just get rid of some of my leaves from earlier. There's not enough data, there's not enough space, it was telling me, to be able to save to my machine. So I just deleted a file, it's all good. And of course you won't get that option. If you're using the online version to save online, you won't get that. Anyway, let's go back to this. I'm gonna use the auto layout, that's this button here. And this auto layout lets me, if I choose the first option, it will take all of my shapes and move them any which way it needs to. This is what the first option is. To be able to lay them out with the best possible use of your cardstock. It'll save you paper. So instead of me rotating and dragging around, see, it saved me the most cardstock by putting them in little angles like that. That's how I did this one earlier what did I cut this out in early espresso, and that's how I cut out this in copper foil earlier. I just used that auto layout feature. All right, so back to my copper foil. I'm gonna unload the mat, and I'm just gonna put a piece of copper foil into my machine, and then I will cut it. And I'm gonna give the big tree to my cousin. I'm gonna use all the small trees for cards, and because scrapbookers use the big things I make. Like I said, she makes incredible scrapbooks. I mean, she's our family historian. She makes incredible scrapbooks. She gives them to everybody. So why not use this tree for that? All right, so then we say okay, and we say okay, and we say cut. Now copper foil is pretty thick. So it may need to use, let's see, I'm hitting, it's funny, you don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm hitting my actual camera. Instead of hitting the start button up here, I was hitting it on the back of my camera. I amuse myself sometimes. I want to just see if the lever is asking me to move up to lever 2 because the material is so thick, and if not, we're just going to come back in a couple of minutes when it's done cutting. Sometimes when it tests the material and it's very thick like this foil cardstock by Stampin' Up, it sometimes makes me change my lever. But it's not making me do that, so I'll see you in 2 minutes after I'm done cutting these trees. Then I'm going to show you my projects. All right, we're finished cutting. We say okay. And now we're going to unload the mat, and I'm going to show you now the rest of my tutorial will be about my projects, and you're going to get to see the finished product of this. So what's better than a copper tree? A giant copper tree. I mean, how cool is this giant tree? So I'm going to put that on a piece of cardstock, just so you can sort of see this in action and how that would look like on a scrapbook layout. And I'm not peeling the other ones off right now, but just know that foil is cool. And I thought as I was doing this that wouldn't these tree branches make great antlers on reindeer as well for Christmas time? So bottom line is, when you get these paper pumpkin kits, if you subscribe, and there's a link to subscribe, and there'll be a link there. Paper pumpkin kits are so versatile, and you could save your stencils. My paper pumpkin people, our customers, tend to also be ScanNCut users. So pretend that's your scrapbook layout that says something about our family, with the 2 branches going one direction on one part of this scrapbook layout, and then the branches going on the other side. Now this paper pumpkin kit, which you can't get this April one now unless you're already a subscriber, but you can still get the May kit, which is going to feature 4 of our 5 new in colors in it. This paper pumpkin kit has all kinds of stamps that have to do with family, and it has to do with, like, there's brother, sister, mother, father. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So that will all work well with the layout. Now let me show you my small trees and some things I did with them. So I need to bend the camera down because of the projects I need to show you. So I'm just putting those in there. It's very shiny, but I have a light on in the back of me, so that's why. All right, let's put some color in there. Let's put this in for color. Now, I was trying to do something along the lines of, this leaf had been embossed, and I kind of got the idea of, why not take these and emboss some of my trees and emboss some of my leaves, and then I turn them into stickers, and I use my sticker machine. So just how cool is this? So different trees going both ways. This is called the hammered metal, okay, embossing folder. So I just wanted to show you that before I show you my projects, that it's not only awesome that you can take a stencil and make more, okay, but it's also awesome that you can resize it and make layers. These are things you can't do with dies. You can't make all these different size layers. Like, here's a 0.08 offset distance. You know, and we just made a point, you know, 04 offset distance a minute ago. And I have examples. Okay, but then to emboss it as well, now I'm using electronic machine, okay? The ScanNCut does emboss, but not as good as an electronic machine. Or, I mean, you know, an embossing machine, I should say, like a Big Shot. But we're coming up with a new one in June. Our new catalog's coming in. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a new cutting machine in there that's like a Big Shot. So this is the hammered metal. And so here are the examples of how you can take the leaf. I hope you can see that. Here, I need to turn my light a little bit. Sorry, crafty friends. I need to show you that. Here we go. There you go. That is awesome. Hammered metal 3D embossing folder on the trees, on the leaves, okay? And then I tried it with other folders. I tried my stone. This was one of my celebration items I got for free when I spent, you know, some money on celebration. That's over now, but I hope this comes in our annual catalog. This is called the Stone 3D embossing folder. This was my favorite as far as leaves go. My favorite as far as the tree goes was the hammered metal. My favorite as far as leaves go was the Stone 3D, because the way I like the leaves are textured. Okay, I tried it with the Memorable Mosaic 3D embossing folder. These embossing folders are available on my website. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Check this out. How cool. So I did them in the Mosaic, Memorable Mosaic, and I tried it with the Coastal Weave. Coastal Weave. Where is that example? That is inside here. See, it's right here. There's the Coastal Weave. I made a sticker out of it already. I didn't like that one as much, but I do want you to see how it looks. So the possibilities are endless is my point, crafty friends. You take your paper pumpkin kit, you take your stencils, and you expand it to do whatever you want to do. And you have all kinds of extra embellishments when you use your ScanNCut along with our other products. Okay, so here's what I did with the ScanNCut, not ScanNCut, the paper pumpkin kit from April. Here's one of the sentiments. Family, where life begins and love never ends. I stamped it using Early Espresso. And Early Espresso is a color that coordinates, even though it came with Pear Pizzazz. The kit came with Pear Pizzazz. I stamped the tree. This is the tree stamp. I'm not kidding. How cool is this tree stamp? You just stamp it like this once. You flip it over, you stamp it again. And that's how I made my tree. This stamp came in the paper pumpkin kit. More on the paper pumpkin kit, by the way. I do a video every month on how you know, projects you can create with the paper pumpkin kit. So that's coming very soon. I mean, I'm going to be doing that probably in the next couple days. I just opened my kit. So, I mean, I'm just showing you the only project I made with the kit so far, and this is it. Butterflies came in the kit. That's crushed curry color. This is Shaded Spruce. I told you about Early Espresso. And there is the copper tree. I replaced the tree that came in the kit with a copper tree. So that's how, and I also took the card and made it full size. So here's the tree that came in the kit, and I did it similar to this. And I just put it on a bigger card is all. I mean, there are full-size cards in the kit, but I mean, I put it on a different card, I should say. This is called Soft Seafoam. So I made another whole card. So that's how you can make loads and loads of these. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could say, oh, I don't get the kits because I can only make 12 cards or whatever. 8 cards, yada, yada, yada. No, no, no. You take your machines, you take your craft stash, you take your card stock, and you can make 500 cards if you want. Okay, because you get a stamp set. That's all that matters. All right, next I want to show you this card I made with the same concept. So now I'm using what's called the 3 Cheers for You project kit. That's on back order already, but I think you can still get it if you act quick. This kit is on back order. I used my own little piece of terracotta tile behind there. But this came in the kit, the card itself, this little line was part of the card, and this little copper embellishments are part of the 3 Cheers for You. Okay, so this is a tree that I cut out, and it's textured with the Stone 3D embossing photo. Let me see if you can see the texture on there. I just wish this pictures would do it justice, even the pictures and the video. I don't even know if you can see that texture, but there it is, and there's a layer of 0.04 outline distance. And so that's the card kit, and these envelopes came in that not seriously, but the 3 Cheers for You card kit. And then finally, I did a card just now with the Seriously the Best project kit. And this little So Grateful is a brand new stamp set, part of our new catalog coming out. You can get it now. It's called, just the word So Grateful is called Ornate Thanks. Your Seriously the Best is part of the Seriously the Best project kit. And there is that leaf that I copied. Okay, these are the leaves, not the one that came in it, not the stencil with the white behind. This is a piece of Shaded Spruce cardstock. It went along with the Seriously the Best project kit. I was running out of embellishments to use with the kit, so I just made my own with the ScanNCut. The piece of vellum, the card itself, the twine, and this word Seriously the Best, and these little flowers are all from, and the envelope are all from the Seriously the Best project kit. I love project kits. I love card kits. I'm doing an entire series on card kits because that's really fun way to use our time right now and to bless others with cards. So thank you for watching. I hope you now understand and have a really good grasp of the concept of scan to cut data. Please feel free to comment and ask any questions in the comments below, and check out the links in the description. Thank you for watching. This is The Papered Chef.